And we're back. So, hi everyone. We are back from the commercial break, and we're good. We will please, if you want to sponsor this, feel free.
Man.
I don't think anyone is standing in your way from sponsoring this show. One day, but anyways, in the meantime, while we don't have a sponsor, we will continue on with our conversation. We were just I think the last time we were talking a little bit about some of where the guys are being mocked. It's interesting to see also Cason Wallace. I've heard that he could be definitely in our range, so I'm very excited about that. But there's a chance that the Raptors could move up and make a trade. However, before we get into the trade talk, I do want to. Something was brought to my attention. I wanted to talk about it, and I wanted to get your opinion or opinions on it. And Coach, I'm going to start with you. So someone brought up, uh, someone was kind of perturbed, I'll say, with me about comparing certain statistics between college players now and Raptors players now from college. And so the specific statistic was when we were talking about Cason Wallace and we were comparing assist rate. So I'm wondering you're a coach, I'm, not. Um, you probably watched a bit more basketball than me in your life. Does assist rate translate to the NBA?
I would hope so. I mean, the passing matters in the NBA. I mean, in particular with Cason Wallace, I mean, he led the NCAA for 36 minutes in assists. Like, you don't want to. Our team's going to shy away from a prospect that has one assist per game? Yes, I would think they would. Unless that prospect does something spectacular, has a really specialized skill. If not, then you want to have a prospect that's kind of a little bit well-rounded, someone who's just going to do more than just score. You want to have a prospect that's going to go for rebounds and pass and stuff like that. I mean, we have a fair number of prospects actually in this draft that have a decent assist rate, like particularly the point guards is um and so to answer your question is yes, I do think it does matter what the assist rate is in college, as it's fairly transferable to the NBA as well. It's an indicator.
And it was brought to one of the arguments was that it was about Gary. That because Gary played for Duke, which is, ACC is a tougher conference allegedly than SEC, that affected his assist rate and may have meant that's why he did not pass as much, even though he was a 5-star recruit. And even though at the time, I can't remember the Duke, if it was a good team or a bad team. But either way, in my opinion, before Beyond gives his take as well, I think that it's important to say when I look at these things, I'm looking at usage and I'm looking at assist rate. And to me, I'm not necessarily saying that Gary's a bad player. I may not be a fan of Gary, but I don't think it's about that. I'm saying this is how he plays. So a good example is Norm. Norm took forever to learn how to drive to the basket with his head up. That was, if you look back at the scouting reports, that was one of the biggest problems with him. They said he could get to the hoop really well, but he would drive with his head down. He kept doing that until the championship year, and that's when his assist numbers went up. And people forget about that, but he was a really good driver, but he would drive with his head down. And to me, I'm talking about the personality of how someone plays, not necessarily whether or not they're productive or not. But with that being said, beyond your thoughts.
um, I think all all stats are not equal for all players, and I'll say it this way: I think if you're, for example, if you're a guard, I think you have the ability in this case more so than say a big man to affect your assist ratio more so. So take for example, Bam Adebayo. I'm pretty sure without looking at Bam Adebayo probably doesn't have a real high assist ratio in college. I believe he's on a team with Hero. I believe he's also on a team, him and Hero, and who's the third guy that's also a top NBA player right now off the top of my head. I can't remember. But there's three that came from that same draft that's from that same team. I want to say Maxi, but I can't remember. But anyhow, point is, pretty much he was there to clean up the rebounds. I always like Bam. And, he's clear up rebounds. They might throw the ball into him once in a blue moon. Comes to Miami now, developed his game. Probably gives you about 4 assists a night now, being a bit of a hub in offense. I get that for a big man. So he's a college thing. When you're a guard, especially in college basketball, guards have the ball all the time. It's like you watch college basketball, a big pretty much has like pretty much see ball, get ball, pretty much on the rebounds. Like unless you're like a big time scorer in the post, which is almost like a dinosaur walking down the Young Street these days in college basketball, you don't have them. So this is like Zach Edey. You're not seeing a lot of double teams in the post in this case to get you more assists. So a guard's gonna have the ball in his hand. So in this circumstance, your example you're talking about, it's hard pressed to believe in this case, if he wanted to, he can get more assists in this case, Gary, at college. But Gary, in this case, chose, in this case, to play the way he wanted to play. And that's fine. Maybe Coach K wanted him to play that way, but based on the fact, I'm a Tar Heels fan. As much as I can't stand Duke, they tend to move the ball around. I can't stand them, but they tend to move the ball around. so I don't think Coach K's out here saying, please don't move the ball, Gary. You just want your finish. I don't think that's what's happening. You choose to play that way if you're a guard. I think with a big man, you have a little less responsibility and a little less choice in your hands. So I get that for a big man comp. But for guards, oh no. You can be able to get a few passes to folks if you want to. Sorry, I'm not buying that one bit.
And I'll just give you like a bit of a Gary comparison is Bryce Sensabaugh without the usage rate. Mm-hmm. Sensabaugh can shoot. He's a bucket, just like Gary. Difference is Sensabaugh has a 34% usage rate, and with that comes 1.7 assists on the season. Crazy. Do we not think if he averaged 3 or 4 assists, as Beyond just said, like he's a guard, he's the ball in his hands. And if he has that for a usage rate, do you not think if he had averaged 3 or 4 assists a game, he would be not going in the top 10? I think he would be. I think 100%.
Like, I get it. Maybe your talent is not good around you, but if you're the guy scoring all the points in this case here, someone's got to be open. I don't think every team's going to just let you play one-on-one all day long. At some point, they're going to double you. And so even by necessity, it's like, oh, geez, there's 2-3 guys on me. Maybe I kick out this dude out in the corner. Like, that alone should be able to get you a couple, or some guy goes back door to get a pass or a bucket for you to have 1 or a little less than 2 assists a game with a 34% usage rate. That's like unheard of. Like, that's like, I can't even think of a player in the NBA over history like with that type of usage rate that have that low of an assist rate. I can't even think of one on top of my head, or anyone's close to it. Yeah, I'm rolling through my head, my own Rolodex in my head.
Now,
if he was a big,
sorry,
if he was a big, that would be different because big guys set style of play. But he's a guard, like you said. That's what's the tough to believe in right now. Like, how do you only have that? But sorry, go on, Kenyon.
Yeah, no. So I was gonna say, just for reference, so we're talking about Bryce Sensabaugh's usage rate. Gary did not have 30% usage in college. I chose his usage rate because it was similar as a jumping off point to say, like, okay, let's look at 3 different. And I looked at multiple guys as well, so keep that in mind, viewers at home. But again, it's not me saying that Gary's a bad player, or I don't think anyone of us are saying that Gary's a terrible guy. But it's just, this is his style of play. Gary is a walking bucket. He comes in. He's a sharp shooter. I think, actually it'd be interesting to see Jordan Clarkson compared to that would actually be an interesting, kind of jumping off point. But you have to look at, okay, Gary is not a pass first guard. He is not. He's definitely not. Now, okay, I mean, I'm not doing any favors by looking at I look at Jordan Clarkson number and it's like 23% assist. Gary did not pass a lot, okay? It's just, if you watched him in college, he didn't pass a lot. It's not a bad thing. It's just, that's how he plays. That's how he plays now. That's how he played then. Fair enough. But it is what it is. I'll tell you what, though. Kyle Lowry, he had a 25% of the time he was assisting the ball. So that translated through. I think assist rate, not the box score numbers. I think a lot of people focus on this as a counting stat. I think if you're looking at the rate at which someone is able to impact the game. Those are interesting stats, especially turnover rate as well. If someone's really turnover prone and they're always, messing it up with the ball, I think that's something that you can look at and see. Hey, at the very least, A, is it a translatable skill, or B, is it something that they can work out? So just a quick aside from our normal draft talk, but yeah, it did come up, and someone suggested that I address it or whatever, so I did want to address it. I think it is a fair way to look at players, and again, the other thing too is, frankly, I don't have to be happy-go-lucky, and I don't think people should be on every single player that comes through here.
I would just say this: for guards, to me, that is a very important stat for guards. It's the equivalent in this case when it comes to motors for big guys. If a guy in this case is not a great rebounder in college, and he's not, I'll see all of a sudden you return to a great rebounder in the NBA. Just saying so.
It's very rare for someone to suddenly become an amazing, phenomenal rebounder, or someone who didn't pass the ball but let's say they are a lights out shooter. Let's say he was Steph in college. It's very rare if you were Steph but you never passed the ball for you to suddenly say, I'm going to start passing the ball.
Exactly.
It does change. It can change. And I think that there are, and I think Gary has gotten better. So.
Right. The scenario that plays out is usually if you're a wing that didn't get the ball in college because you're just a finisher. That's it.
Yes.
So like a DeRozan or a Kawhi Leonard. And then you get the NBA and now the ball's in your hands more, and then you get to broaden your game. That scenario plays out. But if you're already a guard in a backcourt where you're having to handle the ball in some form or fashion, and you're pretty much giving you 1 assist or 1 point, whatever it was, like that's rough.
But that's a good comparison to what you just said about DeRozan. He never came in passing the ball. I don't think it was something that he did when he was in college. Now he's good for like 5 or 6 assists a game. That's a big jump from maybe 1 or 2 at the most to 5 or 6.
Yeah,
it's impressive.
He barely dribbled. Like he was like pretty much a straight line drive dribble. And if he could do that, it was like, oh gosh, it's
incredible. He worked so bloody hard at it to just become a much more well-rounded offensive player than when he came in. He came in raw, very raw. In my opinion, Gary didn't come in raw. He came in with a different skill set, and it's okay. That's just the way that that's his style of play. So yeah, I mean, I think it is interesting. There's definitely an interesting conversation to have about this in terms of how to look at guards and how to look at different prospects. But yeah, I think overall it's fair to look at these guys and look at, for example, we looked at how good Marcus Smart was defensively, and like it was like, wow, like you could see that definitely translated, and he was off the charts then, and he's still off the charts now as a defensive player. So yeah, I think that's really the main thing. And I think at the end of the day, it's for these players to work on those things. But that's okay. That's okay. I don't know if you guys have any last thoughts on this topic, but
it's the fun.
Yeah. It is a quick aside. Okay, so back to the more pressing thing is potential trades and potential trade partners. So we kind of outlined the trade partners already. We kind of went through generally where things have fallen out so far. It's still really early. A lot of things can change. We're seeing people shrink, people grow. Most people aren't growing. We're seeing people's wingspans kind of coming out. We're seeing a lot of information. So guys are going to go everywhere. But with that being said, the most interesting thing and a lot of the interesting news today is that a lot of these teams are reportedly looking to move. Like some of the same teams that we talked about, you're hearing reports out of Houston that they want to move the pick. I heard a report out. Everyone's been talking about Siakam to Portland. Well, guess what? There was a report today, and they said, we want to trade the 3rd pick for OG. We'd be willing to consider that. Okay, so that now things get interesting. So, and then of course there's always Indiana. So I'm wondering from here, which kind of package is most interesting, and yeah, just take it wherever you guys want to go, and we'll go on this magical adventure together.
Oh boy.
Someone will be mad from this conversation. One of the viewers.
About being bad, man. This is big boy stuff we're talking about, man. If you can't put your big boy pants or big girl pants, You're in the wrong stuff. This is the NBA, man. Let's put it this way. I think when it's all said and done, like I think Portland's got such a nice, compelling package to me that I'll be intrigued. But here's my only issue with it. Like I said before, and I'm sticking with it. I think actually the fact that all these teams want to trade out is actually, kind of like very kind of validating my point. There's still so many question marks in these first 5-6 picks that no one's really willing to state their claim and say, you know what, yeah, man, I'm gonna draw my line in the sand. I'm gonna make the pick because I want that guy. All are like, nah, we're good. You want this pick? Give it to you half price. Like it's like so. It's proved my point that I have no problems just moving up a couple picks. That's it. If I get 6 or 7 or 8, I'm good with that. So I'm not even that greedy to get the 3. Now if we get the 3, fine. But as I said before, I'm not as hot about some of the guys up top, especially fitting for the Raptors roster, as maybe others are. So I'm, I personally, to me, I would prefer the 3rd pick. Personally, I would prefer Sharp in this case here, but I know Sharp would not be part of it. So it's a 3rd pick, and if you get me in the Nasir Little, I'm good with that, and you can throw in wherever you want. And if that's OG and Boucher out the door, that's fantastic, great. And and all of a sudden now I got myself now a future player to play with Scotty, potentially a franchise player, because if you're picking 3, that's a franchise player. And the second part is now I got Little, who's going to be a legitimate guy off the bench, not a guy we hope can give you minutes. A guy actually is going to give you 20 minutes. You get production from him, and he shoots about 37% for 3. So finally, got for folks that worry about the 3-point shooting of OG, the guy pretty much shoots almost as well in some ways as OG. So I'm not losing sleep. It's about the same height. Defensively, not as good. I grant you. Offensively, probably a little more fluid. And I ain't hard to do with OG. Sorry to say it, man. I'm trying to throw shade. It is what it is. So to me, I'm loving that deal. But you know what my favorite deal is, man? Well, you know it. Man, oh man. This one's for my cousin, man. I'll tell you, man. Let's strike up a deal, Indiana, because that's where I'm at right now, man. And they're sitting in that sweet spot where I want to be. Around that 7, 6, 7, 8 range. And man, if I get that pick and then you throw in Buddy Hield, a guy can be a movement shooter and give you 20 any night, I don't have to think twice about that. That's what I'm talking about. I won't mind in this case we get one of the Canadian boys, but I know that's not going to happen. I'm just being realistic. But to make the money right, I'm down with Buddy and wherever that pick they have. 7, I think they're at now, or 8? 7?
I believe that they are at 7, yes.
Perfect. That is exactly where I want to be, man. So that to me is my ideal scenario for of all the draft possibilities. Indiana is the one I'm hoping that they can strike a deal with.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting before Coach goes. I think it's interesting because that spot, the 7 spot, you get either one of Taylor Hendricks, Grady Dick, Cason Wallace, like any of those guys without question.
More keep on coming.
Yes, you can, and you can probably, because to move up to the 3rd, and if it was this kind of goes to your point, but if it was OG as the main piece going out to get to the 3rd, you're probably looking at a pick swap. Personally, I'm okay with it, but I know that it might be a little bit janky if they're planning on taking a guy like Scoot or something like that for the first year, outside of saying, hey, listen, you're just going to work on your shot for the whole year, and that's it, right? Like, and I think that there's not much that Scoot really needs to work on right now, but at the same time, with the center rotation as it is, you do worry a little bit about the spacing without getting a second pick, depending on how free agency goes. Now, that being said, I still do think that Scoot is that talented, and I think it's worth it.
Okay, I'm going to push back on you. I'm going to push back this way, right?
Okay.
It's like believing, seeing type of thing, like, or if they build it, they will come. I keep hearing everyone telling me, oh, Scoot is this, Scoot is that, Scoot going to be next and stuff like that. If Scoot is going to be next, you're not putting out a picket sign in this case saying, please, here, take my 3rd pick of the draft. No one's doing that.
Garage sale.
Trust me. If Allen Iverson were reincarnated today to come out today, no one's going to put a sign on the grass in Portland saying, like, please take my 3rd pick. We get to pick Allen Iverson. No, thank you. We're going to pass on. No one's doing that. No one's doing that. So let's there's something going on here, guys. No one wants to talk about. Okay, that there's a lot of question marks, and my guys say a lot of sickles over a lot of these dudes' heads. And a lot of guys in this case here, a lot of teams don't want to deal with. Because in this case, they're saying to themselves, like, listen, man, I ain't really sure about him. Because if you're truly a franchise player, as much as like, yes, they're picked at that point when you expect them to be a top 5 pick, they're a franchise player. But I think a lot of these guys here, a lot of folks saying, like, I ain't really sure if they're going to be the deal that we think they're going to be. I'd rather just kind of trade back or just get rid of the pick altogether. So to me, that says a lot already that like 3-4 teams are already coming out the day after the draft and saying, like, yeah, we're good. What is that saying? Please.
I mean, that's true. They are getting a lot of pressure from their stars as well, and some of them do want to take a step forward. So I will say that, and I think that's probably, you know,
I think this draft is flatter than we think.
It is. Now I don't know in terms of Scoot. It's interesting because I think Scoot is. I do believe that he is a special talent.
And I think Coach said it yesterday. I wish Coach you stuck with it. You were right to say what you said yesterday. From pretty much you said from about 4 to 15 is all the same dude. And I think that's about the number you had. I might tell you from 2 to 15, it's pretty much all the same dude. And I know someone says, oh, I see it. Matthew, I think is saying so. And hey, love the Matthew, everybody else in that space. But I don't think when I hear teams saying that type of stuff, they're telling me it's like, nah, no, we don't think there's that much difference. It ain't Big Vic. We're good. We're good. Yeah. Right? And to make just a one final point with this is that if we just go a couple years back, let's take the last transcendent number 1 overall pick, Zion.
Yeah.
Right? Let's go there. I don't recall anyone saying like, boy, we're going to move off this John Morant kid and we're going to trade down. Boy, I tell you, we're going to move off RJ Barrett. We're going to trade down. Who was the 4th pick of that draft? I can't remember who was the 4th pick. No one moved off that draft. You know, I think my man Josh Giddey was 7th. OKC, we good. We ain't trading for that pick. No one said so. We got folks out here pretty much like a swap meet in this case here. Like they're out here like it's like a flea market. Here, you want this pick? I give you a couple of these, please. Yeah. There's 3 teams right off the pick. I've never seen this before.
That is true. Because I mean, if you look at like even the Scotty draft, like there was talk, but there was no one moved.
Not like the house was burning down the next night. Everyone like I never see a team like Portland just say like, "Hey, we're here for business."
Literally the next day.
Next day.
The next day, they're like, "We
for sale sign coming out here."
If you want this, it is available. Just let us know. And by the way, you don't have to give us Siakam.
Which is amazing.
That's my point.
I again, personally, I would take it. I would. I'm just saying.
That's one point. That there is the key point. That you're not even giving your all NBA player up for the 3rd pick of the draft, which is supposed to be a franchise player.
Yeah.
You're saying, no, I'm good with the guy in this case that plays 45 games a year in this case here. We'll take him. Like, if that's the deal, man, I'm like signing that up in blood. They tell me where I can sign that up if that's what we're talking about.
So would you do?
Would I do it? Portland's deal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just double checking because
I'll do the deal. I got no problem doing the deal, right? But my point is in this case here that it just tells me what I've been feeling all the time. Like it's like there's one dude and then there's a lot of other dudes. And that's where after the ping pong balls fell, everyone took their mask off for a second. It's like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah. Well, it's like some of the prospects that we talked about, right? Like Jarris Walker, right? And it's like, okay, you and I understand what Matthew was saying. Where yes, I totally get it. Not all height is the same height with how someone's biometrics, but he shrunk a lot.
Yes.
Like
yes.
He shrunk a lot.
Yeah.
It's a big amount of shrinking, and
because
he doesn't have the offensive skill to play even a solid 4.
Yeah. So when it comes to finishing around the hoop, all of a sudden those inches start to matter. Like,
yeah, exactly. On the offensive end, that's where you're like, this is a little bit tough.
But my gut has always told me, and I keep telling you guys all the time, be it in these discussions or offline, that in this case here, there's 2 guys I thought at the top of the draft I felt there's less questions about. We know one, Big Vic, fine. The other one was Brandon Miller. I felt he was the most polished of all the top 5 guys that said so. Right?
100%.
Right now we're already talking here in Charlotte talk about, we probably take Miller in this case here. Right? Because all the other dudes are all a bunch of question marks. I have no clue about any of these dudes. As from a top 5 draft, like it's the most questionable top 5 I've seen in a long time. I'm not saying the guys aren't talented. I think this is a very talented draft. But I think it's a much flatter draft in my mind than I think a lot of people are giving credit for that it is. Now, maybe someone blows my socks off and says, hey, man, I'm that dude. I'm him. And all of a sudden, Scoot's knocking shots from 30 feet out. And I'm like, okay, my bad.
Well, to your point, right? Like, it's like if Scoot was able to consistently, because there's stretches last year for the G League where he was shooting around 28% at times. At times. Right. There were other times when he shot better. In the mid range, he shot decently. I think he has it, right? But to your point, there's a question there, right? It's like, is the shot real? And that was something that routinely came up, and then they shut him down down the stretch of games. You know, I agree with you about Brand. So here's my question: if Charlotte said we're taking Scoot, do you then think that Portland would still would the price go up or down with Brandon Miller?
I don't think it would matter that much if for I don't think it would matter. Let's put it this way: if you're a Raptors fan, you're very happy because he would be the better fit.
Yeah, it would fit like a glove.
Yeah, so like to me, like from that standpoint, from a pure selfish standpoint of the Raptors, like okay, we'll take Brandon Miller, so be it. We'll work out the public relations situation, but we'll get that sorted out. But yeah, and that's the thing too. It's not like Brandon Miller's like some squeaky kid in this case here. Like he's the most known, infamous college player of the year.
Yeah,
and Charlotte saying, what, we'll probably take him.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta ask yourself a question, like, really? Like, usually like, well, if the guys are pretty even and one guy's got the better PR, we'll probably take that dude.
Well, I mean, okay, so wait, to be fair, it is Charlotte. There are rumors that they're going to bring back Bridges and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's...
I know. Talk about that, boy. It's quite a bunch there. But all I'm saying is that even if they don't bring back Bridges in this case, the fact in this case, they still feel better. I agree with them from a pure basketball level standpoint. I agree with them. But if Scoot was the man that people want to tell me he is, there would be no discussion about this. There would be no people saying that I got the 3rd pick now. Because here's the thing. Why are they, to your point, why do you think in this case here that Portland's putting out the 3rd pick out for sale? Because they got the same thing we're saying. Charlotte's letting you take Brandon Miller, and they don't want Scoot. Right? Because let's face it, if it's flipped around, they might be willing to keep the pick if it's the 3rd pick.
Yeah.
They might be open to it. Not say they want to, but they might be open to it. But they ain't interested in Scoot in this case in that sense. And I'm not saying Scoot won't be a great player or stuff, but
no.
What I'm saying is, if you're supposed to be him as much as people saying he's supposed to be him, we wouldn't be out here putting out the for sale sign out here. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, even the Twins, right? Like there's questions about the Twins. We haven't even gotten into them.
The Twins are playing guys down the street in the YMCA. I have no clue what they're playing. Like, come on, man.
It's true, right? It's because it's like I keep going back. It's like, okay, so Scoot's 19, right? The Twins are 20, and they're playing 17-year-olds.
17-year-olds.
Whereas Scoot was playing against grown men,
right?
Who some of which are in and out of the NBA in terms of coming down to the G League and going back up.
Guys that just finally got some chest hair in this case here. He just played in this case, and now you can say, "Oh boy, I mean, he could be a franchise player." Like, come on, man! Like, this draft has never. My spidey senses have felt about this draft, and I feel so vindicated seeing what the responses are of these teams.
And they shrunk too, by the way.
Right.
They shrunk too. Exactly. These are not the most up to date heights, but the Twins are now 6'5" instead of 6. They were talking about them being 6'8", 6'9".
Yeah, they were talking about 6'8", 6'9", 6'7". Now we're talking about 6'5". Which quite honestly, you're just a dude now playing guard now.
Yeah, very athletic dude, to be fair, but. And then, of course, the wingspan comes out, and the wingspan, I can't remember what the wingspan was. So, again, these aren't up to date.
So right now, like a raw Jeff Doughton right now we're talking about right now?
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Right? That's what we're saying? The wingspan. That's what we're talking about?
You're killing me. I'm not quite that bad.
Man, please. Maybe I'm wrong, Coach. I must be in the twilight zone. Tell me, Coach, because I think they're telling me what I've been feeling about this draft from day one. Go ahead, Coach.
Well,
I'm not going to go at your man Scoot, but go ahead.
I was listening to Brian Windhorst today, and he basically had said Scoot probably would go number 1 in most drafts. If it wasn't this draft, or maybe the Zion draft. It was Scoot probably would go number one, and I can see that too. If Scoot went in the Scotty draft, Scoot's going number one. I would think anyway. Um, I've been saying that Scoot isn't the best fit for the Raptors, just as currently constructed, because we can't shoot. Brandon Miller is a much better fit for the Raptors, but Scoot's got tremendous upside. I think he does. Just looking at a couple of his stats in the first 5 games of the year. I get it's only the first 5 games, but he had some amazing numbers. Like he shot 3 of 5 from three in the game. He had 16 assists in one of the games. He had a couple of double doubles to start the year. And then whatever happened, I don't know if he get hurt or something. Some of the numbers then start to fall off. Maybe the league just got used to guarding him. They just kind of knew what he did. Look, if Masai thinks that he can pair Scoot and Scotty for the next 10 years, and that's his duo moving forward, you go and you do it, regardless of the fit. And you put the other pieces around them moving forward, the right pieces, if that's the case. So this will be this, like you said, kind of beyond, because Portland has basically opened the door and let come on in, everybody. Let's see what you got for Scoot. Like, this will be his only time to do that if he feels that he can get Scoot. Because in any other year, he would not have got Scoot. That's the only thing. If you can trade OG, like you had said your trade before about OG for Little and Scoot, excuse me, and maybe we give up the 13th pick. I want their other pick too, because we've been talking about getting 2 picks in this draft. You could get Scoot and your other pick. The other picks, it's round 23. You're still going to get someone who's decent there.
Well, I think if that's the case, they will probably say we want Chua, which I wouldn't lose any sleep about it.
No, they could have any of our bench players if that's.
It's like, okay.
I've already gotten blasted too much recently.
I mean, I would try my best not to give up. This is just me. You guys already know. I would try my best not to give up Precious, but anybody else you want to have him, go for it. Because Precious's contract, I still think it's good. I still think you can hold on to that. And if you're losing OG, like I still want some kind of defensive presence left a little bit.
I look at it this way: what's a contract really? Really, what's a contract? We people move and manipulate contracts all the time. When that CBA, that TV contract kicks in, everyone's contract that's already signed to a long-term deal is going to look much better at that point. so Precious to me, I say I'm not holding back to your point. I keep saying this to folks. If I get 2 picks to your point, and I get 2 picks in that draft, and Precious is moving out the way, I guarantee you in 6 months, whoever we pick in this case will be contributing more in this team here lately than what Precious is doing right now. I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Well, I'm looking like, let's just say that happens. We trade OG, we trade the 13th pick. And we get Scoot, Little, and that other pick. So Little, I think you mentioned earlier, Little comes in. He's contributing off the bench. Great. He shot 36% from 3 this year. We could use that. You got Scoot coming in. Scoot is the only point guard in this draft who I think could start on a team. I would start him next year on our team, 100%.
I'm going to say something controversial. I know in this case here, and you all can find me at BeyondLockerRoom RM. You come at me. I don't know. I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to throw this out here right now. I'm going to ask this from a philosophical standpoint. Can a player like Scoot actually be successful in the NBA today? Seriously, think about it.
Can I take this one?
Please do. I'm looking forward to hearing the answers.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a couple more questions from this. In what way, like?
So we have in this case an attacking guard that's an undersized guard that's going to be going the hoop all the time. Now we already got one here out here waving guns all over the place in this case here, and he's always getting hurt like every 3 months. All right.
Sorry.
And they're having trouble trying to build a team around him. Okay. I don't know how many more of them are out there in this case in the league, and there's a reason why we keep saying this team has trouble fitting Scoot in the system, because how the league is nowadays, a player like Scoot doesn't really exist now, right? We're past the days of John Wall and Westbrook, and you keep going down the line. That type of guy doesn't really exist anymore. John Moran is one of one to some extent. right? Maybe Fox is the other guy, but even Fox's games are much more nuanced than that.
It's So okay, so to defend Scoot now on the flip side, I would say that yes. So I was speaking to JD's shout out to JD. Great work, covers the 905, and we were talking about Scoot, and I liked how he. So I'm using how he would describe Scoot, but he said just in terms of a physique, he's kind of a Eric Bledsoe starter pack, right? Which I know that that's not the sell there.
I know
But
he's going with the physicality of it. Like I get what
yes,
he plays bigger than his height.
but wait. Hold on. There's one important thing. He wasn't always, this big, this physical. So he used to have to play with a lot more finesse. So he has the finesse part down. And now this past year, he's like, oh, I'm bigger now. And he used his physicality.
Fair
He
enough.
doesn't, he doesn't rely on his physicality. So if you compare him to a guy like Cam Whitmore, where Cam Whitmore is very physical and he has to build out the finesse skill set. This guy already has the finesse skill set and he knows how to use it and he uses it regularly. So that's what I would say is, yes, I truly believe. And he doesn't play like he did try to dunk on Wemby, but and he does try to catch a few bodies, but I think it's beyond just the electrifying nature of his athleticism. Like, he knows how to play with different speeds without playing like a madman, always trying to dunk on every single dude.
That's fair point. I'm not considering that he's not talented. My point is, from a philosophical standpoint, who builds their team around their one nowadays? That's going to be a scoring one.
So my idea of getting Scoot is, as crazy as this will sound to some people, I'm not building around him. I see him like he might be a top tier. Like, I do think that you could build a competent NBA offense with him at the helm, but I think things are changing in the league, and I think that because of the way that he plays, especially he is a pass first guard, because of his the way that he approaches the game is very cerebral. And so for that reason, I think he's a smart enough player to be, you could use him as an off-ball guard. You could use him as an on-ball guard. I think he could run an offense on his own if he had to. So, for example, I look at the Philly versus Boston series, and I look at times when the ball got swung to Maxey, and Maxey just did 2-3 steps, he's at the hoop, right? Having a guy like that who can not only do that, but also has the athleticism and this is not a slight against Maxey, but the speed and he's faster than Maxey. And also the ability to make plays out of there without having to develop that. Maxey is now developing that. This guy comes in with that already, and he's bigger than Maxey. From a physical standpoint, he's bigger than Maxey.
Okay, but this is what I'm talking about. This is why this pick is getting shipped out. Because Maxey, in this case, no one ever said you're reshuffling a draft. No one's ever picking Maxey as the top 5 pick.
Probably not.
No, he's not going to focus or quickly for that matter. Those type of guys in this case, yes, they are fantastic to have in the court. But I'm investing the 3rd pick or the 2nd pick of the draft for a player like that, where I can find a guy that could do essentially similar stuff, maybe not to the same degree, but will do what you need to do, because he's never going to be the number 1 option on a scoring team. That type of guy, right? Like that guy don't exist these days. I said before, except for the one in Memphis, they don't really exist. Fox is like 6'4". He ain't no short, small guard.
I mean, to your point, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it would be nice if Charlotte took, Scoot, and as much as I do like Scoot, I do think that if you could get basically swapping the equivalent of swapping OG and Brandon Miller, I would do in a heartbeat, obviously, because that would just be a much more there's less questions about can it work and can it work in this. I mean, I don't think you'd have to make aside from the changes that we all think that will happen anyways in terms of probably, sorry people, I don't think that Fred's going to be back. Whether you want him back or not, that's not the discussion we're having today. And I think that because of the comments that GTJ made in terms of not being happy and the way that he was treated this year, I don't know if he's back either. Brandon Miller would fit, and he would fit Vision 6'9" if you want to go with that. He would fit a lot of things. He fits like a glove. He could be your guard.
Hey, I just throw it out here, folks. I'm trying to pop the Scoot balloon. I'm just asking the question. Well, I keep hearing the same thing. Well, he wouldn't fit on this team. He wouldn't fit on that team. It's like, I agree with that assessment, but it makes you ask a question. If he's not even fit on all these teams,
Yeah.
strip it down to the bone for him, then what type of player do you have in this case? Because let's face it, from a pure physical standpoint, I mean, as strong as he is, I'm looking out here. You got to deal with Miami, who doesn't play with Lowry on the bench. You usually play with Butler at the top in this case here. You're dealing with Boston, Smart 6'4". You're dealing with Holiday 6'3". You're dealing with who else coming out there? Who else we just had the other day just playing on the team? Philadelphia, in this case, if Harden hangs around 6'5". I'm just keep going down the list of all the guards we're going down the list in this case here. I mean, be it in this case, heck, Beal 6'4". I just keep going down the list, and I'm sitting there going like, we still would have one of the smallest guards in the league in this case in our backcourt if that were to happen, versus everybody else that we're dealing with in the Eastern Conference.
I guess my thing is that, and I'll let Coach
Ball,
go right
6'7". I keep going down the list, except for everybody over there in Atlanta. Besides that, and even they try to see if they can find a way to stymie that by bringing Murray. And they're trying to bring him out so they can start Murray, who's 6'5".
I like, for me, I think it's mainly, I think you can work with one smaller guard, who's 6'2". I think the body is what makes me feel more comfortable, because he's not like Ja came in and Ja was a bit of a beanpole, right? He's not a beanpole, right? The Thompson Twins are beanpoles, right? Mm-hmm. So I think, like I hear what you're saying, but I think that if he didn't come in with this type of body, I'd be a lot more concerned. Him coming in with his body, like I said, he's probably one of the last guards of that stature that will come in and be able to have a fairly fruitful NBA career without, and relatively lengthy, as long as he doesn't become like Ja and he's trying to dunk on everyone, which I don't think he has. He has the ability, but I just don't think that that's his style of game.
Yeah. I said before, I'm going to find this experiment fascinating, because like how the league has moved to your point, like I don't see teams having a guy like that as their hub anymore.
For reference, Bradley Beal is listed at 6'3".
6'3", fair enough. Fair enough. And he's not technically the point guard in their team anyhow. So I think they started Deron Wright late in the season, 6'5". Right? He's actually their point guard, right? I'm just sitting here thinking like, okay, that's where the league is heading to in some ways. But go ahead, Coach.
Kind of like what Kenyon said. If the body wasn't what it is for him, I would be way more concerned, and that would, the only thing that concerns me was Scoot's the jump shot with this team. I mean, he shouldn't fall past Houston in this draft. I think it's silly if he even goes that low to Houston, because I think Houston would have to take him. I would not pass up on his talent. And I think if you're the Raptors, you're looking at Siakam has one more contract left, maybe, if they bring him back. You're looking at Scoot and Scotty potentially for the next 7 to 10 years if they wanted to. They played their cards right. And then it's putting the right pieces around them. That's how I would look at this moving forward. It's like, is the talent base with those two, with complementary pieces, is it enough? Because Scoot's dynamic. I got to say, I think he's dynamic. Don't know if he's best fit for this team. Brandon Miller's a much better fit. But if Masai Ujiri thinks this is the guy that I want, he typically has always liked bigger guards, even though we've had Fred and Malachi, and Kyle Lowry always played a little bit bigger. Yeah. But it's going to be interesting to see, because if he thinks he's the guy, you got a window, you got an opportunity to get him if you want him. But it's probably going to be him and Scotty and Siakam, likely with just next year or a couple more years after that with a new contract.
Yeah. I mean,
with that, with that second pick, that 23rd pick, that's when you go and get a shooter. You go get, it could be Chris Murray. I don't know. It could be Jet Howard falls. You go get Scoot Henderson and Jet Howard in the same draft.
We're actually have him at 23. Actually,
I know. I am singing to the bank if I know that I can get those two in this draft.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not passing up on either if that scenario plays out, but I do question a little bit of like, what type of player that you'll get. Like, I mean, I think he'll put up points. I think he's going to do all of that. But is he going to be a player you could build around for a potential championship type of team? And I don't know how I see this league going if that's going to be plausible in this case. How he's fine, he's bulkier, but he's still 6'2" when it's all said and done. And if he's going to be a hub of the offense at 6'2", I get a little nervous about those type of things. But can you go ahead, man? I don't know, Coach, if you gave your thoughts on what deals you made that one. Is there another deal you like out there?
Yeah, there is. I mean, the only thing I'll just quickly say is also, again, handle life. He handles the ball, probably one of the best handling guards that I've seen since Steph, in my opinion. Like, that also helps him a lot in terms of giving him more margin for error. So, I mean, there's a lot to like with Scoot. But with that being said, I can understand. Well, okay. This is a good transition into the other part, is that the other deals, and we're mainly, I guess, talking about OG deals. I'm not saying that there's not other Siakam deals, but, you know, in terms of maximizing your value, if you can get an OG deal done like that, and you don't have to give up Siakam, and let's say you want to make a Siakam deal after, you can still make the Siakam deal. Now, what I'll say is this. It seems like we all agree that there are more, I don't want to say complete players, but there are players that are, you kind of know more or less what you're getting later in the draft, like around our range, it seems. So in terms of, like, say, or alternatively, you know, we just said that they're not going to do Sharp, but say you're getting like a Sharp type guy, a redraft candidate in a sense. It sounds like you guys are leaning towards that. Let's say it's Nemhard, probably not going to be him, but as an example, I don't think Memphis has any sort of good package that I'm really interested in, but you're looking at that sort of thing. Is there, you know, do you still feel comfortable making a deal where, you know, you're bringing something in like that, like, for example, the Indiana, where you're getting Buddy Hield, you're at least getting an established player who helps right away? Because my thing is that, well, hypothetically, and I hear what you're saying, I guess the question is there really tiers? Hypothetically, if there's not tiers, then there's not really that much value to extract from the third pick versus the seventh pick. But if there is, then you're missing an opportunity to capitalize on that, and worse, you know, even from an asset management standpoint, convert that into an asset later.
I'll just say the reason why you make the deal is, in this case, you have control of who you can get, right? And when you're at 13, you're just getting the crumbs at that point, where everyone else doesn't want. I'm just sorry, no disrespect, whoever we get at 13, but you're now just reacting to what's left back. When you're in the 6, 7, 8 spot, obviously 3, now you have options in this case to pick the guy you think could fit best with your team, and not hoping like, okay, what's the best guy available? We'll take him. And that's the reason why I think you still make the deal in this case here for those circumstances. And I think there's also a bit of a pairing that has to happen on this team. It's just too top heavy.
Right. And the other thing too is, I think whoever we get, whether we move up or not, we're going to have someone who's going to be contributing at bare minimum off the bench. Coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think at 7, Indiana's pick, you definitely have more choices out there. Like Grady Dick, probably going to be available. Taylor Hendricks going to be available. Casey Wallace going to be available. Um, and you're getting, assuming Buddy Hield back. So you have a real opportunity to really improve the shooting of this team. Buddy can chuck shots, but he can hit them too. Like he has the respect of defenders in the NBA. Like, we have to play up on this guy. He can make threes. Go in, then you go in and maybe get Grady Dick, 40% from 3. Um, just that little move there alone. I don't really call it a little move, but the shooting dynamic on this team changes right away when you get Buddy and Grady. Are those two a better fit with Scotty and Siakam now?
Yes, and the other thing too is it automatically streamlines your offense, which is one of the issues this team has had for years. I always say, NBA, man, the successful NBA. I'm sorry, man. Like I understand some teams in this case, and others are folks in spaces, but offense is not democracy in the NBA. Not if you want to win. Yeah, that might be fine in high school, but in the NBA that doesn't work that way. We're not giving participation ribbons out for everybody to get shots up. No, like sometimes you got to sit there, and you might be there for 5 straight possessions, and you might just sit in that corner until the ball comes to you. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. Well, just kind of envision this right now. You get Scotty coming down on the break. He's got Hurdle, who's rim running. He's got Buddy Hield in one corner. He's got Grady at the side of the foul line extended at other 3-point line. He's got so many options out there. Or he himself can just take it to the rim, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, like you said, 3-point shooting, transition game becomes so much better because if you have Buddy Hield or Grady Dick in either corner, well, if you're the defense, you have to go out and guard them, which is going to open up the floor more for Scotty or Pascal in transition.
I think the other interesting thing, and I guess this is more of a question, is in that scenario, are you still keeping your own pick as well?
I would.
So if you're also keeping your own pick, you're also talking about another dude, say whoever's left over, could be the Koulibaly kid,
yeah,
would be coming off the bench as well and contributing as well.
Yes.
Exactly. Absolutely. Or you want more shooting? Maybe it's Jordan Hawkins. Maybe it's Jet Howard. It could be Keontae for that. If they're looking for like potential 3-level scorer, maybe that it's Keontae at that point. Like with those 2 picks alone, you really could put better pieces around Scotty and Pascal because assuming it's just OG who could be on the move, you're still trying to build around Scotty and Siakam moving forward. That's still the case. Even if you bring in Scoot, it's still, even though Scoot's kind of not the right fit for them, for Scoot, it's just he's the exception where we want the talent and we're going to develop the talent to eventually one day play with them.
And again, just, the reports are out there that people want OG, right? Like, I'm not saying that the reports aren't out there that people want Siakam, but I think both from the standpoint of salary as well as just fit, Siakam takes a lot more to get up to a deal. I mean, I think it was Grange that was saying that they would potentially have to get a third team involved to really figure out a proper deal, whereas with an OG, it's a lot more of a cleaner deal to get all of the assets that that they would want. So, for example, if it was Portland, I will maybe people will disagree with this. I don't think that the Raptors, based on what I know Masai wants, and in my opinion, I agree with this. I wouldn't want to pair Scoot Henderson potentially with Anthony Simons. I think that's where you get into Beyond's point where it's like, okay, we have a really small backcourt and one of these dudes definitely can't, defend. Sorry, Simons. And then the other dude, I mean, he's not super switchable if we're being honest. I mean, he's switchable up to the second, guard spot. So in an NBA where you have, point guards, I mean, I don't know what you consider Josh Giddey to be, but definitely SGA it handles the ball, and he's 6'7", if I'm not mistaken. You could be in a lot of trouble, especially in the East. So that's one thing where it's like, okay, you'd want to find a team for Anthony Simons. And personally, I don't want to. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, just take the guy and trade him later. I don't want to do that. That's not my job. If I'm a GM, I'm not saying, oh, I'm gonna do your job for you and take this guy. We already got into trouble with that with Goran Dragic, right? Oh, well, yeah, you're gonna be able to easily flip him to Dallas. Look what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that. That's no. Like, get the dude that you want, make a clean trade, and obviously there's a reason why. Yes, 3, 4, 5 team deals happen and beyond, but usually you're seeing much cleaner deals happen because it's a lot easier because you're trying to appease less parties.
Yeah. We haven't talked much about Orlando. They got 2
right.
picks. And they didn't seem too happy in this case about where they landed. They're interesting because they have a lot of spots filled already. They got like about 3-4 million point guards at this point. I don't know how many of them they plan to keep. I'm not sure they're storing them for the winter. I don't know what they're doing with them. They have a lot of guys that are pretty tall in this case as well too. They don't have a mid-sized guy like a wing that's like 6'7", 6'8". That's one thing that's missing from their team. So there's another possibility for maybe an OG destination. I know a lot of Fred talk has gone there, but I never really felt Fred fit with that group. But OG to me does fit with that group. And I'm wondering, like right now, technically Franz is playing small forward for the moment, but you can technically put OG at the 2, and you can have that group playing out there with Paulo and Wendell Carter in this case here. So that's their starting 5, and of course Fultz. So that's a huge starting 5 if you had that.
Would, just like you said, they have a ton of point guards. They get Fultz, they get Anthony, they get Suggs. Would Sixth and Suggs be enough to get OG? I think it would be.
I think it would be too.
I don't want 11th. I want the 6th pick, and I want Suggs if I'm giving them OG, because Suggs we know is not the shooter that OG is. Suggs good defender. You're not going to lose too much on defense, especially your point of attack becomes.
Contract on us though, so that's the thing, right? And they're gonna want the Isaac contract on us. That's the thing. I mean, if we're willing to bite the bullet and just eat, I think you guys said it was like 12 million. For the,
oh, you're on.
Sorry. So here's the thing about the Isaacs contract. I'm okay with taking it. I don't know if the organization and the media would be okay with it. But this year.
So what are you worried about? Does he actually play?
Yeah. Well.
Like if he's sitting on a bench or he's just doing working out,
he doesn't have to kneel. He's sitting.
Right. Because I haven't seen the guy play like 3 years. So like, what are we talking about?
He played what, like 8 games last year? But yeah, so his contract this upcoming year is partially guaranteed, and then the following year it is completely non-guaranteed. So I personally like it because I see it as a big, like, you could flip that into something if you need to. I like it. I actually like getting him as a part of that, but it would have to be a bigger package because if you're giving up OG in a deal like that, it can't just be. It needs to be something else. That's all I'm gonna say.
Put in there. I don't care. Like whatever.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying for sake of argument, it's just like
Your man Precious, man. You head back to Florida.
Yes. And I think if you're a Barnes fan, well, guess what? Barnes is getting his boy Suggs. Right? So, if that matters to you, Barnes is happy too. Because at least, one boy goes out, other boy comes in. Right? So at least you could be happy from that standpoint as well. And he's known this guy for longer. So there you go. But to me, I find that would probably, I would be more than happy to do that. I actually think that Suggs is a much better shooter than a lot of people give him credit for. I know that there's certain people in Raptors land that have suddenly become a Suggs hater because, like, whatever. I'm not naming any names. I just know that there's a lot of people that are like anti-Suggs.
His 3-point percentage went up like 10 points in 1 year.
It did, and then if you look at the end of the year when he was finally, he's been on and off as an injury-plagued guy. I always said that he could be basically like Malcolm Brogdon to me, which is a very darn good player. He's a very, very good player.
Yeah. And Brogdon's always hurt in most of his career. Like Brogdon used to just wake up in the morning, he's like, oh, he's hurt. He's like, okay, so get him on the IR. Like it's like we'll have the Brogdon this time, like So like it's only the last couple of years where he's actually been kind of like fairly healthy. So.
Yeah, so I mean, it's. I think that there are definitely moves to go, and again, I don't want people to focus too much on the frameworks of deals because I mean, we'll see. But I think either way, I think we covered a lot. We went through a lot of things, and this is probably going to end up being a 2-part discussion, to be honest, just because of the length. You're right. Before we got on here, you're like, this is gonna be a longer discussion. I'm like, no, I don't think so. And then we like flipped through the lottery, and I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't bad. I'm almost done. It's like, oh, well,
no, got to Detroit yet.
A whole bunch of new stuff to talk about. So yeah, it was definitely a fun discussion. We'll probably continue it a little bit offline, of course. But yeah, I think it'll be a very interesting next month to see what happens. The one thing that I will say, I still remain that, like, watching this playoffs, I think dynamic guards is definitely interesting. I mean, I've seen someone say the opposite, where it's like one of the ways. I think it was Samson and Trey actually. So shout out to them. They were basically saying that one of the ways the new tricks in the NBA is to stop not rim runs, but like be able to stop buckets at the rim and shots at the rim. That's one of the things. It's like if you think of the reverse, it's like if you can get guard pressure at the rim, you can start creating advantages. So yeah, I mean it's definitely interesting. Final thoughts.
I think what this playoffs showing me is that there's a certain limit or height you could get away with in the playoffs before you end up being a defensive liability due to purely on height. I don't care how talented you are, they will find you if you're of a certain height or below it. I don't care who you are, they're coming after you. And I think in this case here, the Raptors got to kind of get with the times and start trying to build their backcourt to be a much more taller, aggressive, athletic backcourt. You were not going to survive out here playing here with flat-footed dudes that are like 6'2" or 6'1". So to me, that's where my mindset's at. I said before, it was a great discussion discussing about Scoot in this case here, but I am of the mindset I want some taller fellas up here. I want a bigger lineup. And I think that's what the playoffs have shown me.
Coach?
I think this is still a guard-driven league today, even though two-way wings basically will win you championships. I think guarding the three is what is happening more so today than ever before. I'm not saying that rim protection does not matter, because it does matter, but how many guys you have who are versatile and can guard the three, it's gonna be huge moving forward. Now those guys still have to be able to score, of course, but how well you guard the three, that's what's important today. I feel it's almost as if, why double team when everyone else in the floor can basically shoot threes. Um, yeah, in terms of, like Leo Routon said at the end of the season, we have to get bigger at the guard position. I'm 100% agreeing with that. Scoot is not the tallest guy, certainly in the world. I mean, he's 6'2" or 6'3", whatever he is. I think his body and his athleticism does make up for it a little bit. And with him, it's going to be the jump shot in the end. I've already seen everything else. I'm already impressed with the athleticism, the body, the poise, how he kind of conducts himself on the court. It's gonna be, once again, it's gonna be the jump shot. That's what everybody's asking for today. So whether it's Scoot, if it's George, if it's Case, and whoever it's going to be, it's all going to be about the jump shot in the end. That's what this team needs moving forward with Siakam and Scotty.
Yeah, I mean it's like what a AI said, right? It's like you can get a bouncing car, the shoes, all this kind of stuff, everything with a jump shot, right?
A jump shot can get you a shoe deal, a supermodel, a big house, fancy cars, a bunch of yes men, and a Swiss bank account. But none of these things can get you a jump shot.
It's true. More so ever today, not just
More
20
so
years
today
ago.
than before. But none of those things get you a jump shot. Really, really interesting conversation. I will say one thing. I would also want to see those x-rays to see if his bones have fused. That's Scoot Henderson, because if the bones haven't fused, he can maybe grow another inch. Then maybe that addresses the height concern, But other than that, man needs to learn how to shoot and confidently. I like the idea. I really like the idea of getting the two guys. And I mean, people, I understand that there's a lot of people in Raptors land that just want to like have a complete redo, but I think that they're like, why not at least try to take the best two guys that you have and build around their skill set and at least try 1 year. Just try. That's all I'm saying. And I think that they might actually try to do that, but we'll see. Anyways, with that being said, like, comment, and subscribe, even if you didn't like the conversation, because I'm sure that this will be prickly to some. As I'm learning in Raptors fans, we seem to be a little bit sensitive these days.
Oh man, get over yourself, guys, man. Seriously, man. This is for the NBA, man. Folks get traded every day. Said before they traded Wayne Gretzky. Okay, yeah, again, want to get traded.
Absolutely. But either way, I'm excited, and it does sound like no matter what, for those of you who are Scotty fans, I consider myself a Scotty fan, but maybe not a stan like some. I think it does seem like they're going to prioritize him in whatever else happens in for the rest of this team's foreseeable future. So with that being said, again, like, comment, subscribe. Hope you like this conversation, and take care. And yeah, peace.